Game number 3, let's get into the P's and B's, pretty please. And the last note on those healers, I think that this is the bigger difference between Aphrodite and the world of Guan Yu, Hell, and Chang'e, is the fact that Aphrodite will heal a single target, and she'll heal the hell out of them, don't get me wrong, but it's a single target. The Hells that we saw at the beginning of Season 5 and the end of Season 4, the Chang'e over here in the solo lane, and now Guan's just strong in general, but it's about the team healing that's really enticing. So it's funny because you look at Ra, and Ra's powerful just because he's a mage, but I think that heal is the bridge mark, where it's team healing, but is it in combat, is it out of combat? It's kind of both.
It's also the protections you're getting from the Ra sustain. Normally, you don't want to get too close to the Ra heal as a Chang'e to provide that anti-healing, even though that is very useful in its work. It's more important about that out-of-combat healing that you get from the Chang'e.
Big picture, are we headed to a scary healer meta?
It's very possible. The way that Europe introduced the Aphrodite, North America, you know, they woke up from their nap and like, all right, let's bring it back out. And there's a lot of players between these two teams that definitely like some of the sustained gods. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some more Hell outside of both the Aphrodite and Chang'e.
I'm not afraid. I think that we will be in a world where healing is an option, but I don't think we're going to see the oppressive Hell healer metas that was Season 3. Remember that?
It's high execution. Keep in mind, there was a lot of anti-healing built in. We saw that Benji built the Pestilence, built the Curse Donk, and tried to limit some of the healing, but with how patient Spacestation Gaming was towards retreating, healing, going back into it, rinse and repeat, that's what allowed them to kind of prevent themselves from getting anti-healed.
Game number 1, Spacestation Gaming went and they forewent the Guan Yu, excuse me. They did not select it. They played against it, and we were talking about were they being strategic and figuring out that if they could play against the Guan Yu. They lost ultimately, and Guan was a really big part of it. Game number 3, we also have a foregoing of Guan Yu. eUnited picks that up because of the first pick, Thoth. Now, we were talking about the point of contention being the Thoth. Is Baskin's Thoth greater than the Guan Yu effect?
Well, it might be, because his Janus was not sketchy, but he just wasn't feeling it in the first game.
It's also a very... Thoth brings the damage.
Yes.
Janus does too, but it's more difficult, less consistent, and he's more utilitarian.
Also, the stuns that Thoth provides. You don't want to deal with it. You'd rather be applying it onto the enemies, and that's the mindset that Spacestation Gaming are bringing.
Let's take a look at the first half of the draft. Thoth, Hachiman, and Spacestation Gaming are going to go back to the Chang'e. eUnited go Guan, Achilles, and Janus. Banned out, Athena, Serket, Thor, and a fourth jungler, Nemesis, going to be banned out. Spacestation Gaming take away 2 hunters, Shibalake most notably, and the Terra, Jingwei also off the mark. So eUnited here, still looking for a hunter. Guan Yu and Achilles, obviously with a little bit of ambiguity.
Every time I see Janus and Guan Yu, I think of Season 2 enemy combined. Now, they're just missing the Artemis, so Spacestation Gaming banned that away. Unfortunate for PandaCat, but he's still going to be very confident with his late game round. But I'm not expecting the blink from that character.
Sylvanus is a character that's been repeatedly punished, but still, I shouldn't say thus, but despite that, repeatedly picked. Mercury going to be next to him. High damage jungler here. So Sylvanus, Mercury, Chang'e, Hachiman, and Thoth will round out SSG. And eUnited with a slam dunk of an Odin. Gotta love this Odin pick here.
Last pick works out, but the question is, Spacestation Gaming think that they have an answer for it. If they understand the fact that they were going to pick those 2 gods specifically with an Odin still available. They saw the wrong pick. They still had those 2 options. They don't really care about the Odin. They would rather deal with the Odin than they would with the Serket.
That's really, really tough. I mean, looking at this, everybody's going to look at the healers for the Odin, but Lock the Thoth has been the strategy that largely works against Birdman Jr. Is this Spacestation Gaming's game? Because I'll tell you, totally, right now, I'm feeling eUnited's draft.
I'm feeling Spacestation. The Thoth on Baskin was hot in Game 2. I think it's going to carry into Game 3, and then you also have Mercury for andinster. The late game potential for this North American squad should be enough to shake off that first game loss.
Well, it looks like eUnited has the tools to take SSG to dance, but will SSG be able to topple them with their raw talent? That's the question. Let's bring us game number 3, please and thanks.
Oof is all I'm going to say to these drafts, because Odin gets all the way through to last pick. Both teams have healers, and Spacestation Gaming have 5 gods that can't escape the ring. Outside of the ring, though, their comp is very similar to what they ran last time.
I feel like EU, like the players just woke up in the middle of the night just sensing that something was horribly wrong, and then they probably tuned into the SPL and looked at these NA drafts and were like, what is going on over here, lads?
No, they're going healers too. The healer meta may be on its way back. Who do you guys think will win this game? Oh, you Space Station fans in game 1 kind of slipped away in game 2, but now you're going to go back after them in the last one?
I don't think it'll be.
Who'd you vote?
Okay, I don't think it'll be 75-25. I'm gonna give it 60-40.
60-42 Space Station?
Yes.
Let's get into game.
The BaRRaCCuDDa effect.
The BaRRaCCuDDa effect.
You can't fight against it.
So it's double healer yet again for Space Station Gaming. eUnited, I did like the decision at the start, Taco, to take second pick here. Losing team gets to choose whether they want first or second pick. They chose second pick themselves, and it's put them in a situation where they got to prioritize what they wanted, and they pretty much left everything Space Station ran last game up, apart from no Awilish this game. Instead, it's going to be the Mercury.
I will say, though, I am super surprised to see Space Station permit eUnited to have an Odin, opting to not ban Odin during the 3rd and 4th when they knew that they wanted to run back the Chang'e Sylvanus.
Most interesting thing is seeing Benji take that Odin instead. I thought the Odin might have been in the support role here potentially, but Aquarius in the jungle is getting beaten down. The body block! The body block from andinster will keep his solo laner alive. And that's actually really big. It's no bonus gold for either of those two. He's going to lose some jungle. He's gone Phantom. No teleport. But at the same time, you know, the wave's not being pushed. Whew.
Hot rip, though, to that right side jungle, because we all know Andy's probably never going to go back there again, at least not if he wants to get anything out of it.
Venenu in mid. Venenu's not going to get any body blocks here. He just wanted some left-hand harpies tackle, and instead, he's going to end up back in base too.
One Punch Man strikes again. First he saves his solo laner, and then he does it again in the mid lane, killing Venenu, or helping
nice little pull there, telegraphing what he took as his level 2. 72% of you for Space Station. Maybe they saw that kill before they voted, though. Also,
I was trolling.
Also, no, Baskin started with his stun there, did you see?
Yes.
Because when he dashed in, he had the stun available for Venenu.
I think that was also a result of Andy having to save Aquarius, so maybe they were looking for that play as soon as Andy had to wrap back around through the left-hand side.
It was a risky one. PandaCat this game, though, played Hou-Yi twice in a row. Now he's going to turn towards the Rama instead. Not going to have the Hou-Yi available. BaRRaCCuDDa back once again to the Hachiman. Hachiman and Sylvanus in lane. They're going to have a good time of things for the most part. Very, very good at pressuring the wave early.
Pretty standard kill lane, if you ask me. I think that BaRRaCCuDDa and Jeff shouldn't really have too many issues in terms of clearing. That's never been a problem with Sylvanus. PBM already falling relatively low here, sitting just below 50%, but
he's got conviction.
He'll just keep doing that.
He'll be okay. Aquarius, meanwhile, though, in this solo lane, is going to do very similar to what he did the previous game, where he's basically sit on the tower, and this sort of freeze is good.
And here's the thing, though, is that I think that eUnited might have potentially trap carded themselves looking at Space Station's draft for this last pick, Odin. And I say that because of the fact, where's the AoE damage spread that's going to be following up inside of the cage?
True.
This is the same thing that happened to Space Station in Game 1. Odin was a strong pick into the composition that eUnited had opted for, but nothing ever really came about it because Space Station had no confirmable damage inside of that cage.
And in the mid lane, Baskin did get that first blood, so his build will be accelerated a little bit more so now. Benji juking away with andinster. Didn't know that Baskin was waiting around the corner. No beads available to escape this if the stun hits, but the blink will come into play because the stun was just off the mark. Benji could have died then. He will escape. Scream forced out as well with some very good shots from Baskin.
Slight yikes there if you are Baskin.
Well,
hoping that nobody saw that, but we all did, Baskin. Don't worry about it.
You were talking about rip the right-hand jungle. Well, it's kind of rip the right-hand jungle for Space Station's favor this time round.
I can't believe it, honestly, that eUnited, they're going to get poked at probably the worst time possible. Benji thinking that he was just having his way against Aquarius, and now going to end up costing Scream his own jungle because Scream had to venture forward in order to help out. Possible gank maybe to occur as well in the mid lane after the right harpies.
Good work from Space Station in that duo lane, though, we just saw, because trying to make sure Guan is out of mana as much as possible is so important. It means he can't sustain. And they're constantly pressuring every single time we see Mike try and walk up to that wave. He's going to take a ton of auto attacks from BaRRaCCuDDa that just whittle his health bar down every time.
Mercury is going to be the wave for Summer 2018 split.
Is that what it is? Mercury and healers?
I think it's going to be Mercury and healers. It's their time to shine. Mercury has such little effort to clear the jungle so quickly, and I think that he can provide just as much damage as Aquarius, and actually Aquarius needing a little bit of help with some damage.
He's absolutely patient there, Aquarius. Had the Phantom available and was like, nope, I will not die to you, Benji. You are low on mana. There's no rotation coming. I think if we saw Scream appear, he probably would have used the Phantom, but didn't need to.
I also definitely wanted to say that Andy was going to have just as much damage as Scream, but you see the Chang'e on the screen, and you're thinking Aquarius might die here, so...
He might. Still got that Waxing Moon available, though, and you can see the player damage. You're just looking at that as well. Chang'e is very good at, like, fighting in the laning phase as long as she can just get a little bit of farm going.
I think I would have preferred this to have stayed the other way around, though. I think that Scream should have just taken the Odin and left Benji with the Achilles. Achilles has a much easier time pressuring a Chang'e, I think, than the Odin, because you've got the Bird Bomb to work around, but once you've used that shield, I mean, you either jump in or you don't, and if you do jump in, you risk getting punished by a gank, and if you don't, well, you're just clearing the way. Who cares?
3 warriors. eUnited kind of came into this with an option of, you know, whichever one wants to solo can, whichever one wants to jungle technically can, whichever one wants to support can as well.
I don't think that anybody gets to choose if they get to play Guan Yu, though, because PolarBearMike's on their team, and Mike just said, no, you idiots, I'm playing Guan Yu today.
I mean, to be fair, putting him in the solo lane up against the Chang'e, not necessarily the best thing in the world, because with a Divine Ruin, Aquarius has 90% anti-heal, you know, if you think about it. So it can cause a couple of problems for the Guan Yu sustain. But it could have been the Achilles here, and the Guan Yu jungle could have been a thing too.
I think this actually ends up being a losing matchup, though, for Benji. He needed early pressure. They found it, but they weren't able to maintain it. And that's the important headline here, is that you need to keep the Chang'e suppressed. You have to keep the healer suppressed. That's always how it's been since, like, the dawn of healer metas. Whenever they start to surface, you just sit on them, and you don't let them get any farm, you don't let them buy any items, and you just kill them as often as possible, as quickly as possible, or else they're going to end up saving the game.
But you're talking right now that Spacestation have already won this game. Is that how it's kind of feeling to you?
I think that eUnited are in a race against the clock, and if they're able to establish and maintain a steady lead, or I shouldn't even say steady, a huge lead, by the 25, 30-minute mark at best. Anything past 30 minutes, and Space Station should realistically take this one home.
Well, the problem is that Space Station are up quite a bit of gold at the moment between the two. Some of that first blood came into it, but then there's a few other bits. The experience really does add up too.
And don't get me wrong either, because I don't want it to seem as though, oh, this one's a done deal, signed already, and being shipped off, because Space Station could very well butcher every single team fight, and that, I think, is going to say a lot, is how Space Station choose to handle the earlier stages of Odin initiations. But Benji being confined to the solo lane is the reason why I wish that Scream had this Odin instead.
Well, you saw the solo lane for a minute there, and the cameraman was pointing out that JeffHindla had dropped one of his little wisps or his little plants on the ground here to give some mana regeneration for Aquarius, so he can just sit under that tower and sustain back up. And every time Benji tries to go for a bird bomb, he presses the escape, and all is good. Ling is down, though, and Benji's going to put the beat down on, but instead the Phantom will be used, and the jungle Scream is low. You avoids the damage on a Baskin, but Andy goes in at the same time with a Sonic Boom. Jukes out from PandaCat's ultimate, and now BaRRaCCuDDa can find PandaCat in the jungle, but PolarBearMike, he's not going to get away on the horse this time round, and now PandaCat is in trouble too.
What was that pull out of Jeff, though? That was some Jedi Jeff stuff.
BaRRaCCuDDa just finds a solo kill on PandaCat. It's going wrong for eUnited early on. You talked about them needing to establish a lead. Well, it's Space Station with the lead, and they're looking at the Gold Fury. Only Venenu around with Janus, no ultimate available. Gold Fury's going to Space Station here too. This is going over 3,000 now.
Free and clean by Space Station. The entirety of that engagement, it was just one CC after the next. I mean, as if Baskin wasn't bad enough to try and maneuver around the Thoth stuns. Now you're trying to deal with Andy getting the perfect lineup inside of that narrow corridor. eUnited have got to be more careful about their space control. You can't afford to line up in those jungle avenues, because that is free all day long for a Mercury.
Now, it's not doom and gloom for eUnited. Like, the lead is good. It's established for Space Station Gaming. Difference is, though, is when it gets to team fights, that's where eUnited's comp can shine a little bit more. They've got a lot of lockdown, and they've also got a lot of mobility with, like, Janus. So maybe they can start trying to play around the Janus now. Venenu in the mid lane may have to start to release some pressure on these side lanes, looking for ganks when people push up. Specifically, I'm looking towards Duo there more than anything else, because I don't think Aquarius is really the easiest target to go for.
And Scream, he's sitting here. This is mostly to tax a wave, I think.
No Phantom. Aquarius jumps in the ring, has his waxing moon available, trying to buy as much time as possible. Avoids the execute, can't avoid the bird bomb, eats a bit of that. Still under the tower, the chase is on. Benji tanking it up and allowing Scream to go in. Aquarius still alive. Aquarius gets some damage off. Scream's in trouble. Can he dash away in time? He can. Only one attack, space and time fired, won't find the home it was after. Aquarius. Chang'e survives the gank.
The fun of ganking healers.
With Breastplate of Valor.
What a time to be alive. And if you're Aquarius, you're probably going to be alive the entire game.
Yep, I think you were right earlier on. I think we will start seeing some Chang'es in games. PolarBearMike forced away from his back camps on that left-hand side of the map there. Forced to use the ultimate too, so that's going to be on cooldown for a while. Red buff stolen away by Spacestation as BaRRaCCuDDa now keeping the pressure on PandaCat on this left-hand side, who has to be careful about potential rotations from behind between the tier 1 and tier 2. But Jeff's going to limp into the jungle with him, looking for Mike. Mike, no ultimate this time. He's only got a dash to escape this. Sonic Boom, juked out at the same time. Can't juke the ultimate. Body blocks come in. BaRRaCCuDDa finds his second kill of the game.
You don't need to land your abilities when you have that much confirmable CC after the fact. And PandaCat stuck all by himself underneath this T1 tower. Certainly not a place he wants to stick around. Scream 2 levels behind, and Baskin's going to go straight in for the aggression.
They've got the aggression, and they find it. Beautiful play from andinster to set up Baskin there as well. Special delivery turned up at the perfect time and delivered a perfect package to Baskin.
Oh, Baskin will take that all day long. He's ecstatic right now, probably, sitting at 3-0-1. Been a part of 4 out of 6 kills here already, and well, eUnited still unable to even put one up on the board.
It's funny because when we spoke to the desk, Tolly and Tom, they couldn't decide on who would win this. I kind of was 50-50 on it going one way or the other, but I'm starting to, you know, I'm just starting to lean towards Space Station this game now. I think they may be in a good spot.
Just a wee bit.
Just a little bit, you know? I mean, granted, they were against an
It
Odin.
ain't nothing.
No, it seems like they might have a bit of a lead at this stage.
They do have a small one, and granted, it's only 4,000 gold and about 4,000 XP too.
And it's not just the golden experience lead, it's how they're playing the map already. You can see the confidence, right?
Yeah.
You can see that they're keeping relics down, they're keeping ultimates on cooldown significantly from eUnited, and finding the picks they need. They've opened the map up a little bit too now, forcing Benji to start trying to make some rotations.
Yeah, but it's like well, I can't really call it a double-edged sword. It's just a complete and total loss, it feels, for eUnited, because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you try to take up a fight in the jungle, chances are you're going to end up missing out because they just need that cage from the Odin. We saw this at Space Station in Game 2, where Space Station were losing because they weren't able to be fully grouped up. Once they break out of the laning phases, then things start really turning around. Maybe a similar situation could occur here for eUnited once they start having Benji be an actual component of their team fights. But as it stands right now, Space Station are in full and total dominance of this entire map.
We do see something different out of Space Station's build here. Looks like Aquarius going for a bit of a different option. I was going to say he didn't go for the Lotus Crown, but he's gone back to base and looks like he's working towards one, as is JeffHindla too. So potentially 2 available for them here.
But the more items you have, it lets your enemy know that you're built further ahead.
Venenu just going to slip away there in time, didn't use his beads. Ultimate over the wall, actually. This was looking for a pick on Scream, who's still alive too. And instead at level 12, you can see by relics. Relics alone are giving you the idea of what's going on here. Both middle and jungle for Space Station to have this.
And I think what's interesting is Andy actually opted for the beads and the Aegis. I think this is partially because of the fact that he went Hazing Katana first item, so he wanted to be able to stick on top of any singular member of eUnited, just constantly harassing and poking them. And if he'd gone for a crit-based item, such as a Rage or a Poison Star, Wind Demon, all that good stuff, I think that he wouldn't have been able to confirm as much. The movement speed has really helped him catch up a lot of times.
Is that kind of what Mercury's 2 options are? Is stick to the target and punch him in the head and be annoying, or be that crit one that goes for the major looks and finds the crit damage?
Yes to both of those things, but I think it also, again, varies on what your team is trying to accomplish.
Scream got caught in the jungle here, trying to get a little bit aggressive, but we'll dodge away from the damage coming in from BaRRaCCuDDa. Couldn't find the Ijutsu, which he was really after, to find the stun onto Scream.
And I think if you're going crit heavy Merc, Blink is somewhat a necessity just for that strong initiation. You blink in, pop the major look, hope that you get the life RNG that you need, and then you look to pursue based off of how that goes. And Hazing Katana, Stone Cutting Sword Mercury, however, You want to stay with your team.
Everybody reset the goal period by mistake there from Space Station. Maybe because of the space and time. I'll give him the credit for that. Baskin takes a bit of pressure. Round the corner comes Scream, using the pull. Sonic boom off the mark from Andy, so at the same time as the ring's now down, Phantom isn't available here by the looks of it. Trying to weather the storm, and then this big ultimate out from Baskin. Final Judgment wrecked eUnited there, but not enough to bring him down. PolarBearMike sustaining them up, but PolarBearMike, the last one to leave the fray. Instead, he gets hit and brought down by Baskin.
Ooh, same could be said for andinster, but remember, he's got the Chang'e and the Sylvanus. Baskin still all by himself. PandaCat gonna roll in, and he might regret that one.
Saves the day, and the banner drops down from BaRRaCCuDDa. He gets himself a second kill onto Scream. Baskin trying to guess which way Venenu went.
If he'd gotten that, that would have been way too sick.
Wow.
I think Venenu also only escapes that one because of the additional movement speed from going through the portal.
This is rough for eUnited here. This is the tale of two teams, it feels like. Game 1, Space Station didn't wake up. Game 2, Space Station woke up. Game 3, eUnited went to bed. That's exactly the story. They're on 2 different time zones.
Good night, gamers.
Well, it's almost good night, gamers, unless eUnited can find something special. I guess Fire Giant, maybe? A Fire Giant steal?
It was a hard almost. eUnited almost win that team fight, just like eUnited almost won the right side pressure. eUnited almost had 4 kills early on, and it's just been the same thing time and time again. They're right there on the very edge and just not able to confirm.
And now with that, Space Station had 2 Lotus Crowns. Aquarius did steal his item he bought earlier on because that was one that was going towards Thebes. Benji gonna start getting crit in the face. Can he get away in time? Major look at a waxing moon will secure that. Space and time did connect from Venenu, but it won't be enough to bring down Aquarius. Left hand side, oracles for BaRRaCCuDDa.
You see the little bunny? I think it just got back.
Just in time to continue building items, and now they're going to tier 1 tower on the right.
They're both full health. There's no one to stop this T1 from getting pressured out. Scream's going to stick around to see if he can help out with the T2 at the very least, and he's got to play this one careful still. Same could be said though for BaRRaCCuDDa on the opposite end.
This is such a big lead for Space Station. Even if they lose a tier 1 tower on the left-hand side, which they won't right now, there's not a whole lot they can do about it. BaRRaCCuDDa feeling himself, wants to take on both the support and the hunter. Bit of splash out from the man. No, he's got a lead in this. Going to be a bit more respectful though, realizing the sustain's there. He's just buying time
but
for
look
his
at
team.
the back end. Look at Andy. He's wrapping around. He doesn't have his ultimate. I will say that much.
Well, maybe Barry's in a bit of trouble now. The Aegis nicely cancelled out to avoid the damage, and now it's PandaCat in trouble because round the back of the tower was PolarBearMike. One goes down, and when he lands, PandaCat falls 2. Andy gets credit for 1, as does BaRRaCCuDDa. Tier 1 tower falls 12-0.
I'm kind of surprised that eUnited played right into that one. And they had to have known. They had to have known that someone was coming to rescue BaRRaCCuDDa because
Eventually.
You are crazy if you think that Space Station is going to leave John Salter by himself.
Do you reckon BaRRa's comms, because I've never heard BaRRa's comms in competitive, do you reckon he just whines the whole time?
No.
Guys!
We miss a bear all the time, but
no?
I don't think that's the case. I could totally make the argument that maybe he says, Jeff,
please.
help me.
He's like, oh, Sonic Boom in mid, looking for Venenu, who has to beads and portal away. Beads now on cooldown yet again. And this is what we're talking about, it's just these little picks here and there, the pressure consistently. Relics being used, ults being used by eUnited defensively most of the time. And Space Station Gaming have gathered themselves up an almost 9,000 gold lead that will get worse momentarily once this Fire Giant falls. Space and time fired, a little bit late. And that's how much damage we're doing to the damage dealers of Space Station. He's gone already, healed up.
Pretty much none, because it's hard to deal damage against sustain. The whole goal behind a healer composition like this too is just to stay even in a match. You don't want to fall drastically far behind, otherwise you run the risk of not being able to out-sustain your enemy's damage output. But in these sort of cases where you have a massive lead, it is so incredibly difficult to actually prevent the siege because they just heal everything.
And it's not just the healing though, Taco, because the healing's only double. You know, they've got 8,000 healing compared to the 4,000 from United. The Lotus Crowns are giving them so much protections consistently in these fights, so damage mitigation comes into play, which you can see on the graphs eventually at certain points in time, which will allow you to just see how much of a storm you've been weathering.
And then the Rod of Asclepius hasn't even been finished yet for Aquarius,
Oh,
so
gosh.
keep that one in mind. He's been rocking just the Lotus Crown so far, and These heals have been pretty insane as is, and it's only going to get that much worse for eUnited once he does manage to finish off that item. Won't even have to back the base for it.
Well, the murder ball going to continue to the right-hand side, and eUnited can't really stop it here either. The murder ball's a little bit different this time now, because, you know, if people try and leap away, a Winx won't pull them back in. Instead, they've got a Sonic Boom to chase them down from the Mercury instead in the jungle. And that's why you can see Andy not have to stick with the murder ball as much, because he can get down deep into these fights when required to.
Most players would also probably agree that they'd rather have a Mercury than an Wheelish on their team anyway. His late game potential is just absolutely nutty.
And so that's why he's continuing to farm up too. Spacestation not getting too greedy though. They take a tier 2 and they recognize it's less than 20 minutes in. Mistakes at this point can give windows back in for an enemy team. So chip away all the towers first of all. Take all the tier 2s. Gold Fury straight after. And approaching 20 minutes, eUnited are like, well, guys, we're on the Phoenix line already.
You can look at the bright side, though, for eUnited in that they'll be able to farm for once because the troops are going to be pushed up to their Phoenix line, so they won't have to endanger themselves to kill minions.
Sure, but then you're fighting as 5 men for 1 minion wave where you're getting poked out by the sustainers of death. That is Space Station here. Awkward start to the split then for eUnited by the looks of this. Space Station woke up a little bit later than most teams would have expected them to. But after the land, Space Station showing that they can still hang with eUnited and be considered one of the top teams, if not the top team in North America here today. eUnited kind of starting off this split as they did the last one, Taco, with a defeat that you generally wouldn't have expected.
This is a pretty rough set to come into, though. I mean, these two teams are super familiar with each other. Can't say that enough. It's hard to topple your scrim partner, and it's hard to call who wins most of those scrims too, because if you ask Space Station, they'll say, we do, of course, we're the greatest, and if you ask eUnited, PBM will just say, well, we only lose when we're trolling.
So they've been trolling hard this one then, right?
Apparently.
This was the hardest of trolls. We'll see what Mike tweets about after this. Space Station heading straight down mid, full minion wave with them. No side lanes pushing here. So this could be a harsh force situation from Space Station. This Fire Giant buff's about to wear off momentarily. It's not much longer. But they're doing a bit of a damage check on the front line. See if they can poke down this Phoenix, find a pull. Jeff doesn't find it just there. Minions being cleared out nicely. Already though, Phoenix down to half health already.
There's no one who can afford to frontline any of those auto attacks, and it's just way too easy for BaRRaCCuDDa to claim that one, especially thanks to that siege potential given by Baskin's hieroglyph wall.
And that was just one push on a Phoenix. The Fire Giant is about to wear off any second. They'll get a speed as a Sonic Boom from Andy. Destroys PandaCat's health bar. In comes BaRRaCCuDDa looking for the cleanup. He's going to look towards Benji to scream. Couldn't find Panda around the corner. Mike was a bit panicked there too, so he showed he's got a horse as he heads back to base. But Space Station falling back. They're not going to dive in because the Fire Giant's about to spawn.
You missed the look at my horse opportunity.
No, it wasn't amazing. That's why.
Yeah, but they were comparing pretty much.
Look at my horse. Well,
because BaRRa runs in with his horse, and he's like, look at my horse. My horse is amazing, and PBM does the exact same thing.
But his horse isn't amazing.
You don't know that.
I do.
The horse isn't a part of this Hindu.
You know how I know? 0 and 4. 0.
No. Guan Yu is 0 and 4, okay? His horse has not been a participant.
And that's the issue. If the horse hasn't been a participant, if the horse turned
that
up to
doesn't mean that the
play,
animal is any less amazing.
I don't know. I don't think I'm going to win this one. I'm just going to accept defeat and the fact that you think this horse is good even though it's not done anything.
I'll tell you what it is. PBM's just using the wrong skin.
Is that what it is? It's also because he's not using a bow. If he used a bow off the back of his horse, maybe it'd do something. You know?
Fair point.
Hachiman OP. Pyromancer going to fall down. Fire Giant has spawned. And he's going to show off his quick, fast fists. Onto that with the Deathbringer and Rage now online. He's going to be critting to high heaven. And only 23 minutes in. Can eUnited get a kill is my next question. Will they get one? Place bets in chat now. How many kills will eUnited get in this last game?
I'm going to say 1 onto... it can't be Baskin because he's got too much
space
safety.
and time now.
Someone's going to suicide against a Titan and take like 1 billion damage from those axe swings, and then they'll die.
But maybe they don't take any tower damage from a player. That could be the thing. Phoenix is already dead. The banner dropped, and so did the Phoenix. Left on tier 2 was pushed for a second, and Space Station not doing the Dignitas approach here. They're going to play it slow and rotate round to the left-hand side. Make sure they bring down those minions too, spend up some of that gold, because they still need that gold for items.
Andy's last choice item is pretty flexible here as well. Normally you'd see Mercury opt for maybe a Blood Forge or even the Titan's Bane. I think that because of all the sustain Spacestation already has, he might still choose to offer the Blood Forge because he wants the movement speed.
I was going to say, would you troll in this spot knowing you're so far ahead?
Oh, he went for the Aussie.
Well, Assie's the lifesteal that you're after. He probably didn't have to go for the Blood Forge. It's the same sort of thing, you know, lifesteal is involved in it. Extra penetration too isn't so bad. And attack speed,
oh, he's got the hastened katana, so I think that there's actually some value behind the Aussie, because normally it can be kind of hard to confirm steady auto attacks as the Mercury, but Aussie's still a very safe and reliable item, I think, if you're trying to run.
Ooh, Venenu stayed for one more wave. Sonic Boom charged and boom, straight down into Venenu. Beads used, one punch was not a crit. And when you look at the amount of crit he's got in the build with the Rage and Deathbringer, he'll be very disappointed with that, but he's keeping Venenu busy. Meanwhile, the left-hand side, Baskin just continuing to add up the player damage, now up to 15,000, as they all barrel down the right, looking to pick off andinster. This is what it's resorted to. This is where the world champions have come to. They need a kill. It's going to be bad if they don't get one. And he's going to take them all on. How long can he live? Aegis buys him time. Ring's about to wear off. But PandaCat will secure eUnited's kill. Spacestation will secure eUnited's Titan. It's 12-1. GG, Spacestation. Take it in 3.
You know, Andy was going to be my first guess. And I second guessed myself.
Yeah.
Exactly. I went for Baskin because I just assumed that Baskin would dash into the Titan room by himself and then take like 1 billion damage, which was the part I mentioned earlier. I could totally see him trolling in that way.
I think a lot of people kind of woke up slow today. I mean, EU's a little bit slow to start off, not as slow as NA though. North America, a bit of a back and forth encounter that if you looked at this on paper, you'd go, interesting. The whole way through, interesting. But if you watch the games, it's like, well, a little bit lackluster, I'd say.
I'll admit, there were certainly some red flags raised during that Game 3 draft, but it is the start of the summer split, and these guys are bound to just be trying some things out.
You're right.
This is pretty much, I think, just another scrim set for eUnited, although it does affect their standing a little bit. It's only week number 1.
Hey.
They're probably going to be A-OK as the split continues.
They lost to LG on an opening game for themselves in spring. They lose to Spacestation an opening game in summer. Doesn't mean they're out of it, because they still put a damn good show at LAN. Can they make it back there, though? We'll find out with this split. But first of all, who do you guys think deserves MVP there?
I mean, everybody looked great on Space Station in Game 3.
Yeah.
It's hard to call it. Whenever you run these team compositions where it's like we all have to actually do something or else we just fall apart, I think that's where things really get super exciting, but it makes the MVP vote pretty difficult.
Anyone but andinster. He can't have it because he died.
Because he died.
That's it. That's all we know. Maybe it's BaRRaCCuDDa because he's got a better horse than PolarBearMike.
Sure, why not? I mean, it's going to be BaRRaCCuDDa anyway because
Oh, will it?
It's the BaRRaCCuDDa effect.
Oh, I mean, Baskin.
It's why he'll never lose who do you think is going to win this set vote, because is BaRRaCCuDDa on the team? If yes, then Space Station wins.
Hey, the fans were right. You guys were right. 2 for 1 today. Congratulations. Let's get over to the desk, though, to break down that third game with the 12-1 scoreline.
Look at my desk. My desk is average. This side is amazing. How you doing, Tully?
My side is better. All right, Thomas? I don't want to hear none of that.
Well, we got to hear Taco and Hindu break down which horse was better, which was kind of fun. But either way, Space Station Gaming is the horse that wins this race. The defending world champions do not take this victory. Nice stuff coming out from SSG.
And surprisingly enough, eUnited stepping up better in this first week than they did in the spring split, learning a little bit more. Very impressive stuff from andinster. At the very even beginning of the game, he was able to not only save Aquarius that was getting 2-man invaded from eUnited's aggressive opening, but also managed to still rotate, help Baskin find the first blood onto Venenu.
You know what's interesting? I said it kind of tongue-in-cheek, but andinster, I just want to see him play the gods from like 2016. Right? Like, andinster tries to bring out the new stuff, and I think that's when we see him fall flat. Just play the stuff from the old world, homie. It still works. Mercury, very, very successful. Thor, still pickable. You can totally do that.
I just think that he's very momentum-driven. Him and his squad. Baskin was feeling himself on the Thoth, able to make so many aggressive dash plays. That one Gold Fury fight where he actually dashes in aggressively against 2 or 3 players. BaRRaCCuDDa comes in to help clean him up. And it was just the whole Andy and Baskin show.
Well, Andy is the one that's taking the MVP here. Very deserved. Not English, but either way, certainly strong. Nice ultimate right down there, and then of course had a number of great plays. I specifically am thinking of that play in the duo lane. That was really fun to watch.
Oh,
the double kill.
BaRRaCCuDDa was playing very aggressively, baiting himself out on purpose. He's like, hey, look, my ultimate's down. I'm just a lonely old Hachiman in the duo lane. And then, that's he was waving his hands like that, basically. And then andinster, he was thinking about ultimating from far distance, but he's like, all right, I have plenty of time to walk it down the road. PandaCat's ultimate couldn't buy him enough time to survive. Great stuff in that duo lane. But on the solo lane side, Aquarius, when he survived that two-man invade, he also was only down 100 gold from that start because he built the Phantom. He didn't go teleport to get back to the lane anyway. And the fact of the matter was that he survived that initial gank from a Scream. The fact that he timed his invulnerability just to prevent the fatal strike is what allowed him to keep on going and make sure that he was still relevant in the laning phase.
That was the big deal, and that was incredible, right? Watching the solo laner suffer that sort of setback and then get back into it.
The timing was very impeccable, that he needed to be patient enough to absorb the bird bomb, absorb the shield stun, take all the basic attacks just to absorb that one ability.
It's the understanding, and I say this all the time, that the solo lane is really about the minutia of the game. It's the understanding of exactly how much damage not only they're going to exert, but how much you can take as well. And really, really impressive there coming out from Spacestation's short side solo laner Aquarius. Spacestation Gaming take this one, and so they will be sitting on top of the world as far as North America is concerned. Very early on, this is our inaugural day of the summer split, so just 2 changes. Spacestation on top, as is Team Dignitas over there in EU.
Both sets going the distance, and I like the performance, honestly, between these 4 teams. Really not stopping the kind of pressure since the spring LAN. I think that the momentum is still kind of driving these teams to not only just figure out like what they're comfortable with, but just fighting with a lot of passion in some of these games. Spacestation Gaming did not let go in this 3rd game.
What I really liked about, honestly, both games today, both matches, North America and Europe, was this was very much, the teams were playing to win, don't get me wrong, but we definitely saw some experimentation. It's day 1, we're against some really difficult competition that we know we can depend on to be very good. So if we try out new compositions, stuff like the Chang'e, things like that, we're trying it against the best of the best, and we'll know if it really works. So I like to see that sort of experimentation.
And this is only the very beginning. I think that it's still going to evolve even further down the road. I'm sure that there's going to be more experimentation with maybe other healers, maybe even some magical hunters.
Who knows? Well, like Totally said, tons of more Smite coming at you. We've got 5 days a week going on. So today was Monday. That's our mix and match day. And then Tuesday and Wednesday will be Europe and then North America, respectively. Thursday and Friday repeating that. So tomorrow we'll get a chance to see Energy take on Obey, one of my favorite matchups this year. And then Mouse versus SK, which should be interesting. SK taking their new support there, Half Devil.
It's going to be important to see how they bounce back, both of those 2 teams. At the bottom of the barrel in the last spring split, I think that it's time for them to show not only us fans here at home, but themselves what they've learned in the offseason.
Yeah, I think watching that SK squad, Half Devil coming up, this is a very big opportunity. For those unfamiliar with Half Devil actually, he's Israeli, was a part of the scene once upon a time, and then got drafted into the military. Now he's out, and a number of things have changed about this guy. This guy was always very excited to play Smite, very strong, very communicative, almost to a fault, right? He's grown up a little bit, and I think that's going to be able to help him hone his communication skills. And honestly, a lot of people are not so high on him. I am very excited. I think Half Devil is going to change the SK Gaming squad very positive.
I think he'll provide a positive outlook on just the Smite competitive experience and on life in general. So it's interesting to see how he'll mold into that roster.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. Half Devil and SK Gaming, they're at the bottom, but it is still possible for them to make it towards the top and find themselves here in Atlanta in the fall. HRX is going to be at DreamHack, baby. Such a big deal. November 16th through the 18th. Before that, we're going to have a ton more of competition setting the stage. But November 16th through the 18th, Smite and Paladins will head to DreamHack. We're hanging out with all of the other games. It kind of feels like we're finally invited to the big boy party.
It's true. Well, you're not going to need your winter jackets for that month specifically. You might need a light sweater for November, but it's not no January.
For those of you that have come to HRX in January, you're used to seeing me bundled up with the scarf and everything, and inevitably getting sick. Well, not the case here in November. Very excited that we're going to be able to do that. So, been a lot of fun here, Toli. What's your biggest takeaway for the day?
It was definitely the battle of the Thoths between the North American set and then the battle of the Athenas in Europe.
Yeah, there was a certain athema to today's Thoth process.
Is this where I walk out?
I've had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us on this Memorial Day. Shout outs to all of the troops, veterans, or otherwise. You guys have certainly allowed us to do what we do. The fans, you guys allow us to do what we do as well, so thanks for showing up. On behalf of myself, Anatoly, our stable of commentators, and the production people that make everything work, we love you. We'll see you tomorrow.